If you have ever screamed at your kid and then felt like the worst human alive, or maybe you've wondered if you are completely failing at this parenting gig, then this episode is for you. I have made no secret that I am not a parenting expert, but today's guest is a family therapist. Lisa Taylor actually is an expert. And even though she is a family therapist, she is the first person to admit that she is not a perfect parent. In fact, she has written a whole book about imperfect parenting. Today, she's going to explain why you are losing it with your kids in the first place. And hot tip, it has almost nothing to do with your child. Lisa Taylor has spent 25 years sitting across from families in crisis. And what she'll tell you is that in almost every single case, the child is not the problem. Ouch. Lisa is a family therapist, an educator, founder of Strengthening Families Australia, and the author of a new book, The Perfect Parent Trap. Today, she is here for very selfish reasons, because I have been in the trenches of parenting teens, and I really needed someone who can explain why some days it feels less like raising a family and more like surviving one. Let's get to the podcast. Hi, I'm Danielle, and I'm so glad that you're here, because together we're going to work through big stuff. Lisa, hi, and welcome to Big Stuff.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, look, I'm excited to have you here for many, many selfish reasons. I loved your book. It really spoke to a lot of the things that I do in my work anyway. But as a parent, it's a very different thing, right? I can see what's going on with my clients really clearly, but as a parent, you can't see your own stuff, Lisa.
I know. It just sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah. So does that mean that you're a perfect parent because you're a family therapist?
God, no, please, no, absolutely not. And I suppose part of the reason this book has evolved it is because of my story, because of like actually bumping into this really tricky, hard stuff that, and this was prior to being a therapist, but you know what? We're always learning. I'm always kind of something happening with the kids, and you know, I have to kind of go, oh, what is that in me? Why do I just want to control the absolute living daylights out of that?
Yeah. Absolutely. How old are your kids now?
So now they are 25, 23, and 20. So.
Okay. All right. Look at how sane and put together your book. So there is hope. They're coming out the other side. And parenting, I imagine, just changes, right? It's still...
Yeah. I think, you know, one of the really, I suppose the important thing about this whole parenting gig is that we expected that it would just be kind of, we'd have a baby and then we'd know what to do, and it would just, you know, like, we'll just do it this way. And yeah, when we bump into things that feel really tricky, it's, we kind of go, it's a bit like our work, right? Like we go to work, we're so competent, we know what we're doing most of the time, but you know, we get stuff done and we can solve any problem, and then we hit this parenting space and it's like, well, I've tried to solve this problem in every single way I've known possible and it's not working. I don't know what to do.
Yes, absolutely. I often say, you know, I always wanted to be a mum and I always wanted to have a baby, but I feel like, you know, what you don't take into consideration often with that thinking is, you know, is my marriage going to be strong enough to withstand parenting, or am I going to have health issues? Am I going to be grieving, or, you know, these various things that come up in your life that really decrease your capacity for handling other people at the same time. You know, there's no pause button to say, actually, I really just need some time for me to process all of my whatever, because like child rearing brings up your triggers, as does various other things in life. And before you know it, you're walking around like this totally triggered mess going, why why is this so hard? Like, it's not supposed to be this hard. Is everybody struggling like I am? Do you hear that question in your practice much? Is everybody like, it feels like everyone else has got it easier than you do?
Yeah, it's the most common thing that people come with. The question most people come is, how do I fix this? Like, just help me fix it. This is a problem. Everyone thinks everyone else is doing it better. And that's kind of, the book's called The Perfect Parent Trap, because we are caught in this trap of expectation of our own and others' societies. We're judged. Like, you can't tell me we're not judged when, someone's having a meltdown in the supermarket, or you go to school and a teacher says your child, has misbehaved today.
Or you're called into the vice principal's office again.
That's it. Yeah. So, there's this real judgment. And then social media, we watch all these mums having these incredible lives, and, we're sitting there in tears. Yeah. So there's so many, and that's what I wanted parents to know, is that you're not alone, that you are seen, you are heard, and that this space in this book was really about giving parents hope that they can do it a little bit differently, that they can be there for their children, but also know that the most important person really is them. And, you mentioned kind of, tricky kids and not sort of kids they don't need fixing. I've never met a child that needs fixing. I've met children who have behaviour that is telling us something, and when we can really, and that's the key to this whole real parenting thing, is not thinking about I'm a parent of a child, but actually I'm in a relationship with this little person, and that comes with responsibility to think about what is their need, what's their behaviour telling me, and then thinking about, actually, what's my own needs in this space? What do I need right now in order to feel regulated or calm, or, what am I missing or not understanding about myself that's really causing a reaction that is not really how I want to parent? So that's kind of sort of the real key to this whole thing, is the through line in the book is, am I responding to the child in front of me or reacting to the child within me? And, it's kind of that ouch kind of moment where you go, oh, yeah, that's my stuff.
Or you hear yourself sounding like your own parent, or you hear yourself or see yourself reacting or saying the things that were deeply painful or problematic in your own childhood. So I do. I want to dive into that, but let's have a little look at teenagers in particular, asking for a friend. What is happening developmentally in teens when you start hitting that real power struggle? Like, everything we've touched on so far, I do want to really dig into that triggering the child within me, but let's sort of normalize teens being assholes and what's going on there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I probably wouldn't call them assholes, but they're hard work.
Sometimes the behaviour can be a bit assholey.
Oh, yes, true. So what's happening? Well, firstly, developmentally, there's a whole lot of brain stuff going on here. So we're trimming synapses. So there's actually not a lot of kind of capacity for thinking or for forethought, right? So there's a lot changing in the brain. There's all this social stuff happening as well. There's physical body changes, going on as well. There's also this time where there's a bit of a separation from the parent, so they're building up to become an adult. So there's a period of time where they want a little bit more autonomy. They don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be reminded that they haven't done, the things that they were meant to do. And so the pushback from that becomes rubbing and conflictual. So there starts to be this kind of, what was once this, 12-year-old that was compliant and happy and wanted to sit with you on the couch. Suddenly, all of a sudden, they are prickly and they don't want to be touched, and they want, it's tricky. So we have to really think about what's happening to them emotionally, physically, socially, and it's a lot. And the thing that often happens for us as parents is that we get also triggered or we react because it actually presses on something within us. So our response to them is that we actually want to control things. Fear this fear rises in us and we want to actually control the situation. Instead of kind of going, oh, okay, I'm recognizing that for me right now, this is feeling a little like the time maybe when my own dad was rejecting of me or he dismissed me, and all of a sudden there's a trigger or there's a response to that reaction from your child. So that, so kind of that's in a nutshell what's happening for our teens.
Yeah, it's enormous. It's enormous.
Yeah.
I love what you just said there. I work a lot with this in many contexts with my clients. The things that feel like the experiences in the moment that feel like past experiences. And you mentioned that in the book, right? The chain reaction where the event triggers a meaning, which triggers an emotion, which drives a response. So ultimately, everything we're doing is to feel joy or avoid pain.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about, give me maybe a practical teen example of, when this happens, when you go.
So I'll give you my personal one because, this is, here we are, full disclosure, I'm not perfect. When my kids started to be teens or when, as they were growing up, when I felt that they weren't listening to me, there was something that really ignited whoa, you better bloody get back here and, I'm going to, how dare you walk, all of that stuff. What I recognized was, and through all my study and my work, and this is what the book's really about, is that it really pressed on a time that reminded me of a heartprint or a hurt, if you like, of as a child when I wasn't listened to, when I was dismissed. So really, I'm a really sensitive person. I was a really sensitive little girl growing up on a farm where, there wasn't a lot of time for emotions. It was, we're busy, stop crying, get over it, you'll be right, just move on, you're weak, all of that, the narrative that goes with it.
Yeah.
So what I found was when the kids were having moments of slammed doors or, walking away as I'm speaking or not ignoring what I'm saying, then I noticed this rise in me that just wanted to go, hang on a minute, you get back here. So that's the moment, and you know it because you feel it. So the event is a slammed door or a comment from a child or not listening. The reaction is I feel it in my chest, and I know the event is connected to my childhood events of the catalogue that I've got of all the times that I wasn't listened to, and so then then I have a choice about recognizing, oh, that's right, that's my old stuff. Right now, in this moment, the adult me needs to tend to this child's needs. That's the aim here, is to put my stuff here for a minute and go, okay, I'll think about that later. But right now, my child's telling me slammed door might mean I need some autonomy. I want some time. And ignoring.
It takes such self-awareness though, I find until some of these concepts even are taught or absorbed, even entertained as a possibility, is a lot of people will be like, no, my kid was being disrespectful and I deserve respect.
Yeah.
Rather than taking that step back and being able to have the perspective of when that happened, it triggers a sensation in my body.
Mm.
And that sensation, it's very easy to say, I'm angry, or, that's annoying to me, or my child, I must, it's really easy to do that. So rather than step back and say, that makes me feel really vulnerable, like I'm losing control, or that makes me feel sad because of, whatever. I think it takes such self-awareness.
Yeah.
With your own journey on that, your heart print, you called it a moment ago, which I love. And in the book, there's a picture of a heart and like a fingerprint, and it is, it's all those experiences, all the imprints on the heart that shape who you are and how you are in the world. When you had that awareness, Lisa, did you then have to go and do the work on your little girl? We know that that's where the work lies, is healing the stuff of your inner child. Did you have to do that at some point?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely had to do that. I think the moments, and there's many, when I've realized that I'm not being who I actually truly am, they're the moments I know something's been triggered, and that a heart print's been triggered, and it still happens, it's still, I'm human.
And I think you mean you're not healed? I thought you were finished by now.
God, you know what? Just when you think you are, something else will pop up.
No, the next layer or a new challenge in life. Yeah.
I know. So, it's, I think the way I want to flip this, and this is the conversations that I want to change around parenting, are that behavior, when we look at behavior, it's just information. It's just giving us some kind of clue as to this child has a need, or this adult has a need. I have a need. I'm behaving like this. It's telling people something. And rather than, and kind of being conscious of behavior is just information, let's just look and be curious. And that curiosity is a big key to this. Then we can not so much be, kind of in that reactive mode, but just really, like my child's being disrespectful. Well, my child's just meeting their needs. Our job is to kind of work out what that is, because they can't tell us in the moment. So that kind of deviates a little bit. But the heart print thing is that, I suppose, because I've always felt things so deeply, and I never had the words really for what this was. And heart prints just felt so, I don't know, there's a real, textural thing to that, because it does feel like a hurt on your heart when you were little and no one listened, and those hurts still happen. But now I have the awareness really about, okay, that's actually old stuff. And so lots of talking to myself, lots of saying, it's okay, you're okay. What do you need right now in this moment? I need to take some big deep breaths. I need to put some music on. I need to, take myself outside. It's a lifelong thing. And I think, we're not perfect. Parents are not. They get it wrong all the time. I get it wrong still. Because I'm living in, with other imperfect humans in an imperfect world.
Yeah, of course. Of course. You said a moment ago that we need to, try and work out what the needs are that aren't being met. The teen years are a time of kids notoriously pulling back. Certainly boys. I know my daughter, she is a bit more of a talker, and she actually quite likes to tell me all of the things that I'm not meeting, which is a mirror, right? She's very, very emotionally involved and has a lot of incredible language around that stuff. So, her shining that mirror back on the things that I have done that have, she will call me out. She's like, don't try to emotionally manipulate me. Don't guilt trip me. And I'll be like, I was trying to get what I wanted by making you feel bad, So I love that. I know, right? One form of intensity on that angle, but the other, my son, we're experiencing a lot of shutdown. How do you work out what the need is when your child won't communicate with you? Not so much even on the broad levels of what's happening on the bigger scale at school. They're just sort of and anything. How do you bridge that gap?
Yeah. The answer is probably not going to surprise you, and it's not rocket science really. But I think with complete tenderness and care and love, and knowing that there's this little volatile person who's trying to make sense of the world in a world that's hard and tricky, and and they don't know what they need in that moment, but they do know that it feels big and it feels, hard. And when we criticize them or we judge them or we want to control them because, control feels better than vulnerability. And so what you're talking about really is this space for you as an adult. And this is kind of where we want to flip it back to the parent, is that for you it feels uncomfortable and it feels, you're not sure what to do. And that's the vulnerability of every parent who's parented teenagers.
I don't know how to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. And so my kind of reflection back would be, what do you need in this space to be able to be there for him? And what does that look like?
Yeah. And again, it takes everyone stepping back for a minute, because when everything is heightened, it's all just reaction, right? There's no time for formulating a response or having that moment of reflection, because you are literally just reacting from those really primal places, Well, that was a shit answer. I was hoping you'd give me the silver bullet.
But also having a conversation with him about, okay, this is a tricky time, babe. We love you so much. We see you. We want you to feel like you can be truthful with us about things. We want you to know that your feelings are safe with us. We want you to know that your needs matter. And it's okay in all of this for all of us to try and get it wrong and mess up. And then the most important thing is, how do we come back and repair it? All of us. So even having those conversations in the moment, or, in a moment, in the car.
When everyone's calmed. Yeah.
Correct. When we're all, over food generally is good,
Yeah. It's fun. My kids are at the stage where they will be saying don't try to therapize. I don't want more conversations. Don't, don't give me any of that stuff. And so I'm sort of caught between this place where I do want to say all of that, and they just just leave me alone. And I think that's another trap that parents can fall into, is over talking, when sometimes it's about sort of simplifying things, right? It's really about simplifying things. You talk about parenting from fear versus parenting from love. Tell me what that distinction looks like in the middle of a blow up with, it can be a toddler or a teen. Talk to me about that.
So when something big comes at us, like a, child's emotion, or there's our heartprint has been, pressed, or theirs has, there's a big moment of, you kind of talked about, we're kind of a blow up. Yeah. And things are hot. And in those moments, what our internal system wants to do is control things, because our brain's job is to keep us safe. And our brain suddenly goes, hang on, there's danger here. I can feel it. That's the adrenaline that rushes through you and I and everybody. So we're wired to kind of go, okay, well, how do I control this? What do I need to do to take control of this situation right now? And control feels easier in the moment than vulnerability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So invariably what happens in those moments, so often what happens in those moments is the parent will be like, right, you're punished. Right. No computer. Right. No phone. Right. No Peppa Pig after dinner, whatever it is, to gain control of a situation, we come in hard with a punishment. So what do we do instead?
Yes. So the thing about punishments, or, there's natural consequences that happen. But when we use and this won't be a popular opinion, but I'm going to give you my view and my experience. When we try and take things from children, what we're saying is, I'm bigger than you. I have control and you don't. So I'm going to take this, and until you do and behave the way I want you to, then you won't get it back. So I'm in charge, I'm in control, and you're not. So that's not good for any relationship. It doesn't matter if it's a relationship with your child or anybody. What we want to do is have influence over our children. So we want to be able to say, hey, this is feeling really hard right now for you and for me. We're going to cut this right now. We're not going to have this conversation. I need some time to walk away. I'll come back another time when we can both have, talk this out in a way that's going to be healthy for you and I. Or, I love you, mate. I really love you. This is not a good time for either of us to have this conversation. We'll come back.
It's super interesting because I am that parent, and my partner is a bit more old school because that's how he was parented. I had a mum who was a talker. I adored my mum, so I wanted to please her. We were best mates, which is problematic in its own way. And then my husband was brought up very authoritarian, do as I say, all of that. So we really do sort of come to this sort of clash with like, yeah, but I'm the parent, this is how it goes, which is kind of old school parenting, right? It's the old school, the parent is the boss. But I do often feel that we will say things to our kids that we wouldn't say to our co-workers, for instance. There is a level of respect and communication that that you have to uphold because that's what people deserve. Whereas when it comes to our kids, we're often like, no, like what I say goes, when you wouldn't do that in any other situation.
No.
So I think that it can be a total retraining even because particularly our generation, Lisa, that was a different style of parenting. So we're really breaking the mold and learning a completely new way, which is difficult and uncomfortable and, all of that sort of stuff. So I have heard in parenting, that sort of taking things away from kids. Obviously, there are consequences for certain behaviors or whatever, but taking things away is not necessarily the best way to do it. What do you suggest? How do we find, I suppose, appropriate to the issue? How do we find the appropriate ways to discipline or create consequence?
Yeah, great. It's a great question and one that I think we've been asking forever. Well, discipline actually means to teach, right? Disciples to discipline. It's actually about teaching. So if we think about it from that respect, then how do we teach our children that what they were doing or what they did or, the reason they're having this huge meltdown and blow up right now is because they've had too much iPad time and that does things to our brain. So it's about not in the moment, like we don't want to so teaching in the moment where it's really hot and heavy and hard is a
no one's listening. Yeah.
No one's listening. So in a no problem time, when people are more able to listen and to consider the others, is to have the conversations about why, what's the why behind the reason that you've got for, no screens after dinner or why, it's not okay for, your teenager to not let you know where they are. So having the conversations about what is happening for you in that moment. So my need to keep you, I love you more than anything, and my need to keep you safe is really big and strong. When I don't know where you are, I have in my head all these things that have already happened to you. It's not that I don't trust you. I trust you implicitly, and I love you, and you're so precious to me. I really would love to know where you are. I need that information.
Yeah.
To keep you safe.
Yeah, absolutely. On the screens, social media aside, we know that social media, we can see the studies on social media, what some of the issues can be for teens, but just devices in general. Parents are really, really struggling to know how much, how to control it. Kids just want it all the time. What are your thoughts on it all?
Pretty much just similar to that. I think that we've done our children a disservice. I think that we've let them down. We've let them down incredibly, and we've given them something that has distracted them from play, from one of the most important developmental parts of being human. We've distracted them from that. We've given them something that we know damages their brains in ways, or changes their brains in ways that are not healthy for little people. So I think I wouldn't be giving my kids screens certainly not under 3, nowhere near anywhere. But I certainly would be very much controlling what's happened. If they have screens at the moment, times, where, when. The biggest, the thing that really makes me so sad, and I could really cry about this, is what's happened to families in all of this. We've lost those moments where we sat around the table and chatted about the day, or we've lost our kids to some of those devices. They're down in there connecting with people that we don't even know, rather than being in that family system where we learn things and we talk about things and we share stories about life, and, we have those beautiful, precious connections with each other, which is human. We need as humans, this is what we need. So that really core, and I think this is the reason I became a family therapist, because it's such a precious entity, the family. And I get we don't always get on, but that's how we learn. We learn through relationships. And so, in answer to your question, it really concerns me. I get that kids now already have connections and they have these devices, and that's really tricky to pull back. But, we have a law now that says, certain children, certain age shouldn't be on social media. And yet when I talk to parents who come to see me, they, I ask them about it, and I'll go, oh, well, they haven't cut us off yet. And I'm like, hang on, this is your responsibility. This is your child. You are the adult. And so the boundaries, we need to think about how we put boundaries in a way that allows children to understand why we're putting the boundary in, and that feels loving, even though they may not like it. And, one of the sort of the biggest wrestles that happens for parents when their child doesn't like them because they've put a rule in, then they kind of give in, because, well, oh, that's right, love's conditional, or I have to please everyone so I feel loved. So that's, again, coming back to
it's your own really stuff. Your heart.
It's about the parent. Yeah, right. Yeah. So the what we teach our children is that they can get whatever they want if they behave in a certain
long
way.
enough.
Yeah.
I'm a notoriously loose parent, according to certainly my ex-husband, but I'm pretty lax. And I have had a very hard, I've been working in the online space for a really long time, and I've had a very, very hard line on social media. It's an absolute hard no, and I will not even enter the discussion. And my kids are shocked and horrified, and because they can usually hustle me to a point where I will cave. And I have been so staunch on this, and they'll argue that I am inhibiting their social life. I'm stunting their social development. They're the only people in the whole world, like all of that stuff. And because it is such a hard line for me, I have zero feelings about that. I will not be guilt tripped into it. I'm like, I don't care. But I was listening to some research the other day about comprehension and knowledge for kids has been growing year on year for the last 60 years. So our kids have been getting, smarter. They're doing well. They're doing better academically, across the board, generally speaking, until they bought in devices. And then it has been going down year on year since they bought in devices. And what is interesting about that is, all of the information is right there at their fingertips. They have the whole world there at their fingertips. But we are hardwired as humans to learn through connection, through storytelling, through that sort of face-to-face stuff. So, I feel like schools are making it even harder because everything is done on devices. The kids have all got iPads in primary school. Max, and I mean, they're not even responsible enough, I don't think, to be carrying those devices because they keep breaking them and I have to pay for new ones.
Yes.
It's nuts. It just feels like such a crazy experiment.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Our eldest child wasn't around when she was kind of growing up, and she even says now, I'm really glad. I mean, she kind of was, but I was like you, the very strict parent who was like, no, I think my 15-year-old son he's like, I'm the only 15-year-old that he's not allowed to have Fortnite and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, you're welcome. You are welcome. It's, I think for us as parents, and we have to really think about what's the outcome we're looking for our children, and really, resist that urge to please them and to give them what they want, but give them what they need.
In order to give them what they need.
Yeah. Because they need us to hold the line. And people often think boundaries are, I don't know, something bad or hard or what, I don't know. But the way I talk about boundaries is that they are love. Like, you putting in boundaries for your children about no screens is about love. And if we can do that, we can listen to their all their whinging and their complaining and all the reasons why we're the worst parent. We can listen to that, and we need to listen and I sort of knowing that we need to own the limit. We need to say, no, this is what I believe and this is why. And we need to validate their feelings, validate that it's hard and, it's going to be tricky and, they're not going to like it. We need to do all of that. And then we need to say, but, I love you and I trust you, and I trust that you'll be able to, follow the rules here because you know that this is important, not just to me, but for you.
Mm.
Yeah.
The gaming thing has been very difficult in our house. My son would like to game, he's had periods where he would like to game 8 hours a day, and there have been periods where I haven't had the energy to do anything about it. And bringing in then boundaries around it is quite tricky. Also, blended family. We're a blended family, so we've got that step parent dynamic, which is really tricky. And I think that, whatever somebody's family, anyone listening, whatever somebody's family looks like, each family has their own kind of dynamic issues that trigger different people within the unit in different ways at different times. How do you suggest parents protect their relationship through the teen years?
The relationship with the child you're talking about?
No, the relationship with the parents.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's so important.
Because it's really easy. Everything becomes about the kids, right?
Yeah, really, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the relationship that you have with your partner is so important. It's without that, really, there's, things can fall apart very quickly. Parents need to be on the same, they don't need to necessarily parent the same, and we can't because we're all different. But come back to connection. Connection is our innate need to connect. All we really want is to know that we're seen, that we're loved, that we're heard, that we are safe. And if we don't know that in our intimate partner relationship, then everything else that happens around the family with children, they feel it. They feel it when parents are fighting with each other. They feel it when a parent is disconnected. So when a parent's withdrawn because they're not feeling heard or seen by the other partner, or something's going on, when there's a depressed parent, children will respond. So imagine we're all connected like a mobile, a child's mobile. So when you pull on one side of the string, it moves the whole thing. That's how families work. And so when there's one person experiencing something, the rest of the people feel it. It's not unusual for a family to come and, a parent might say, well, this child is, always attention seeking and they're always, out of control or whatever. And then I dig in and kind of ask, tell me what's happening in the family, what's happening in your relationship. And, mum might be depressed or dad might be depressed or not working so much that he's not home, and so there's pressure. So a child is here distracting adults from the problem, and becoming the problem. Well, they call it the problem, but so there's we're not. It's kind of, we don't live alone. We don't live just individually or solely. We are so connected, and so that initial, that relationship, that intimate relationship with your partner needs nurturing. It needs time. It needs connection. Devices are distracting adults from that too. People, so many, of my clients, when we talk about, so what happens when you sit on, after dinner, what happens? I'm on my phone, he's watching footy, so I'm on the phone, or he's doing this, or he's on the phone, and people are, resent it. Like, they resent the phone, right? They go, oh, hang on, it's the phone, it's Facebook's problem, but actually it's not the problem. The problem is that somewhere along the way, someone forgot to be present, or there wasn't presence and connection in that relationship. So taking time, making time, like as a priority, making time to sit and be with each other, and out of the home, out of the space where it all happens, and it doesn't have to be huge.
We've just brought in weekly date night because we realised that we have become quite complacent, and it has become all about family and the logistics and just the day-to-day. And so we have brought in the weekly date night, which involves no alcohol and no screens. And I mean, we're far from perfect. I'm not saying, I'm a stellar star student, but even just, we're alternating who organizes it, and even just the act of thinking about what I want to do in advance, or being excited knowing that he's organizing something, because it's a secret until we leave. Just knowing that it's happening is giving, a little bit of something to look forward to in what can feel quite relentless. I feel often parenting can feel quite relentless.
I love that. I love that you're doing that, Danielle. I love it. What I really love about it is, you said, we don't know about it, but he's thinking about it. And there's nothing more special than knowing that someone's thinking about you. That I'm holding you in mind. It's such a...
And I want to do something that you enjoy. I'm trying to think of something, and this is what we've found so far, because he has arranged things that he thinks I'll enjoy, and I've arranged things that I think he'll enjoy. So I was like, we're going to a rage room to smash some stuff, and he was like, oh, wow, I love that you think that I would enjoy that. And he did. But he was like, you would never do that. And I was like, no, we certainly got out some of that angst. Yeah,
it's
for
good.
sure.
I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it.
So my family is spicy. Pretty much everyone in the house is spicy in a different combination. And I think the more I know about neurodiversity, the more I understand about it, the more I can see when someone is overstimulated, someone is being black and white, someone is talking too much. Me. That's actually all just me. But all of us trigger each other's stuff just with our neurodiversity. I know that there are a lot of people and a lot of families out there who sort of think that neurodiversity is like a real buzz thing right now, and really, families are just families, people are just people, and bad behavior is just bad behavior. Do we need to be making allowances for neurodiversity?
Absolutely, I think we do.
I mean, you have to. There's no choice.
Well, but the thing is, like, if we bring it back to needs, right? Like, all behavior equals need. When someone who is neurodiverse is overstimulated, they have a need. The need is, I need either somebody else to help me regulate, like that dyadic. I need, this is our job, parents. Like, our job is to help our children regulate themselves. We need to know when we are overstimulated and need to regulate ourselves. So I think if we can stop looking at behavior as the issue and come back and go, okay, well, we know that this child has a need at the moment to have some downtime, or they have a need to get onto their device to connect with their friends, or you as an adult, well, I love to talk a lot, and this is what I'm doing. My need is maybe when I was little, I didn't feel heard. And so, we just need to understand, okay, Danielle, let me sit with you. Let me listen to you. Let me hear what it is that you want to say so you feel heard. So I think if we can move away from what's the behavior and actually go, what's the need, really?
Yeah. And for me, I think one of my biggest learning curves is being able to sit and let my child say all the things that they need to say about me, what I've done, how I've let them down, or how I've made them feel, and not be triggered into that. But I do everything, and I'm always here, and you don't even see all that. Like it's so easy to continue that cycle of defensiveness rather than just absorb and say, I hear you. And it's okay if that's their perspective because they're kids, right? Their perspective really, they are. I mean, it's all about them. They're completely self-absorbed and they don't have to have the self-awareness of a 35-year-old, person who's done all the work. It is, I think, ongoing work in my own patience, self-awareness, and I want to say surrender, like just being able to surrender and like just being able to be in the awkwardness rather than try to win or be on top, like be the powerful, be the parent. Yeah. Right. I'm the parent and this is the way that it is. It's really,
I like to call it presence. So if we can just be present in the moment to what's our stuff, but also just, you said sit and listen to what they're saying while they offload what it is that they're trying to work out. And, you're a talker, I'm a talker. We know that we learn when we listen to ourselves work things out. So if sitting and listening to a child say, well, actually, when you did this, it made me feel blah, 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 and I don't know what you were thinking. And you just kind of go, I hear you. And, I apologize if that made you feel this way. My intention was to, do this. I'm human. I'm going to get it wrong. Come back to this thing again about perfection. We're not perfect. And our human experience is that it's a tricky world that we're living in and relationships can be tricky. And, sometimes we get it wrong, but admitting that or sitting with it and just, being present in those moments with our kids it's a gift. It's the hugest gift, I think, that you can give anybody.
Talk to me about repair, because I'm a huge fan of repair. I'm really down with it in all of my relationships, romantic, platonic, parental, whatever, because I am well aware that I am flawed and I fuck it up. I really don't get it right all the time. And I can see very easily when I have not done it well, and I'm okay with circling back and repairing. I know not every parent does that. Certainly some of the parents that I know don't do that because maybe it wasn't modeled to them. Like, how important do you think it is to get your head around the idea of repair in relationships in general?
Well, I think it's as important as listening is, repair is just as important. So, when there's a rupture or something that happens, like, imagine a rope that's ruptured and then we patch it up and we make it stronger. And that's what happens in relationships. When we repair relationships, they become stronger. When we say, I acknowledge that in that moment, I was yelling at you and I wasn't being my best self. I'm really sorry. I imagine for you that felt really confronting and hurtful, for the things that I said. I really want to own that and know that, I imagine it must have felt hard and hurtful for you. How can I make it better? What can I do? And I'm going to learn from this too. Because when we can show that to our kids, then they can go, well, actually, Mum, sorry, when I yelled at you, I was just feeling like angry because my friend at school didn't talk to me today and I just realised I took it out on you. So, I apologise.
I had
So
one
we-
of those the other day. My
Yeah.
daughter came in and she apologized for some behavior. And I honestly, like, I wanted to fist pump so hard. I was like, that is such a great win to be able to take accountability for your behavior and move on, right? Thank you
Yeah.
so much. I really appreciate you saying that. What happens if you don't get good at repair and you brush stuff under the carpet?
Good question. Well, I think most people know what happens when we brush stuff under the carpet. The big mold's there and we kind of walk around it and no one wants to touch it. No one wants to clean it up. But we all know it's there. And then one day, something big happens, someone falls over it and everything blows up. The biggest thing is, though, in our hearts, we know that we're wrong. We know that we've hurt somebody. And so we need to really have our own integrity around just owning that stuff. It's one of the, I suppose, a freedom that we want everybody to have. It's okay to try and fail, and get it wrong. We want our children to know that, but we have to model that first. I think it's really important to think about, as a parent, what was that like for you when you were growing up? So what happened when you made a mistake? Were you criticized? Were you humiliated? Were you dismissed? Like examples of when, I might have come home and said, oh, I got a B on my test today. And my dad said, well, you should have got an A. And there's a hurt that comes with those kind of comments. So how do I deal with criticism? Or if I did make a mistake, did my dad yell at me, or was I belittled because of it? If it wasn't allowed, then just check that when your children kind of bring something up to you or you make a mistake, just check your own heartprint. Is this something that happened when I was little that's now rising in me? And what's that about?
Yeah. Again, it's the willingness to look at your own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my wish for everyone, is that they have the willingness, the capacity, and I guess the guidance, because it's beautiful work and it's powerful work, but it's not easy work. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. It's not fun, but so necessary. It really is so necessary, I guess, so that you can evolve as a person, as a parent, as a partner, and just as a human.
Yeah. I think it's critical to our evolution. I really think it's critical to our evolution. That we, and what I find is, and actually what I love about being a therapist is that when people come, they come because they're bumping into something and it's really big and they've tried to cover it up. They've tried to, do all the things they know, and it's still there. And so there's kind of no hiding here. And some people are okay sitting with the uncomfortableness, and some people are like, well, this is too hard. We can't do this. And they might not come back, or they might do part of the work and then go, no. And so it's about that patience and being ready, and, people are ready when they're ready. But, my hope with a book is that here's a bit of a guide, and it's an invitation to look inside and to find out what are you bumping into and what's that really about. And the reflection questions in there just to give people a moment.
That's one of the best things about it. I love that. So you've got in the book, you've got a lot of case studies. Yeah, and some of them are your own. Some of them, there's lots of great anecdotes in there, so you can see the issues in real time. There is a lot about opening up sort of concepts, but then there are some great thinking points. You've got the questions in there, so it becomes more than just a parenting book. It's almost like a guidebook, I feel, and you've done a really beautiful job, because it's the warmth in your writing. It's not a preachy. It's not this is the one way, the only way. It's like, hey, let's have a think about this and how this makes you feel, and what's coming up for you, what's coming up in the scenario. So I love that. And you talk about the 5 fundamentals being courage, compassion, curiosity, love, and connection. And I love this as a sort of lens for relationships and living in general.
Yeah.
How do you suggest people keep those 5 fundamentals at the forefront of their interactions with each other.
Yeah. The five qualities I think that are most important, and that's them, is that we need the courage to look within. We need the courage to just kind of go, actually, maybe I could do this a different way. Maybe there is another way. The courage to be able to say, this is not working, or I want to do it better. The connection, firstly, with myself, like, actually, I know I haven't been parenting the way I should. Maybe I need to look at that and kind of go, all right, what do I need the courage to do this better, but it's got to start with how am I connecting with myself and my children. The curiosity to know that I'm not sure what's going on. I'm seeing this stuff, this behavior. I'm seeing this stuff in me or feeling it. What is that? Rather than, being judgmental. The compassion to go, I'm going to get this wrong. Maybe I've done it wrong all my life, and all of a sudden now I'm seeing for me, family therapy was like putting on a whole different pair of glasses. I was like, okay, now I see the world. And love, in the end, that's all any of us want, really, is, we all want to be loved. And so I suppose it's not about doing more. This has never been about, this is not a how to do book. This is a, who are you being? Who do you need to be? And who do you want to be? And in all of that, really, how do you love yourself first and foremost is really important. So those 5 qualities it's about awareness. If you get read the book, take some time to answer the questions, to really reflect on what is like that. What's it like for you? What are the things that you're bumping into? How can you do it differently? And and do it with kindness and love for yourself. We all need kindness in this crazy, busy, judgmental world. So come back to kindness as a starting point for yourself and your family.
I love that so much. We recently got to a point where I knew that the family was fractured, and I just realized that we can't do this for another 5 years. And I think reaching a point or being able to have enough foresight to say, this, you don't have to just white knuckle it. You don't just have to hold on and hope everyone gets through it and likes each other at the end. There are different ways to look at things. There are support mechanisms there. There are people like you. There are family therapists. There is information. There are books. There are websites.
Yeah.
So I think that's a perfect note to end on, just that. Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? And really, it's all just about coming back to love. Thank you so much for that. It's such a beautiful insight. So tell us, where can we get your book, The Perfect Parent Trap?
It's available at Amber Press, online, Amazon, Booktopia, lots of bookstores. So you can go to my website, Strengthening Families Australia, and you'll find the book and links there as well. And on Instagram, I'm always posting videos of different, topics from the book and insights and stuff that I think that will be helpful to people, learnings that I've had along the way. So there's lots.
Well, I'm all up in your grill. You're about to see me all over everything, because I know that I need a little bit of guidance through this period. And I think just having not just an expert, but somebody who's walked the path already and has 3 happy, healthy adults gives me so much hope. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you out in the Instagrams and wherever I find you. I loved that chat. Lisa was great. I have to say, I really was hoping for some kind of silver bullet, the one definitive answer that would help me to have completely compliant children and the happiest of happy families all the time. But as we know, this whole idea of a perfect family and perfect parenting and perfect kids, it just doesn't exist. We are all coming together in a melting pot of needs, of thoughts, of feelings, of developmental stages, and of all of the different things that have gone before in order to shape us into who we are. We can just do our best is the key takeaway from that. So the next time you feel that heat rising, the slam door, the eye roll, the total shutdown, before you react, just take a breath, pause, and ask yourself one question. Am I responding to the child or the situation in front of me, or am I reacting to the child within me? I love that so much. You don't have to have the answer. Just asking the question is the beginning of everything. The other thing that I would like you to really sort of take away from this is the part of the conversation where we talked about repair. Repair is such an imperative part of relationships. Repair doesn't excuse all behavior, but it really goes a long way towards coming back together and being able to make a situation stronger, make a relationship stronger when we have the capacity to admit or take accountability for our own shortcomings in a scenario. Repair is always available, always. It doesn't matter how badly you got it wrong last night or last week or last year. The rope can always be patched. And when it is, the rope becomes stronger, just like Lisa said. It can become stronger than before. So if there is someone in your family that you've been meaning to circle back to, or trying to, hoping something that will just go under the carpet, whether it is your kid, your partner, or even yourself, today is a perfectly wonderful day to start to repair and heal the relationship with people around you. And of course, that beautiful, everlasting relationship to yourself. Thanks for listening. See you next time. I hope that you enjoyed listening to this episode of Big Stuff as much as I enjoyed recording it for you. Now, if you did enjoy this episode, it would really help me if you wanted to share it with just one person that you think is going to get something out of it. And also feel free to drop a comment. All of these things really help podcasts to gain more ears, and that's what we're really here for. Also, be sure to subscribe, then you will never miss an episode. If you want to find out more about me, who I am, what I do, then you can go and check me out at daniellecolley.com.au. I'll see you next episode for more big stuff.